Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety. I'm Sonia, and today's episode is kind of a big deal for me. I'm doing something that I sort of danced around for years now, the 12 steps. I've gone to meetings here and there. I've always felt the wisdom of AA. I've respected how much it's helped other people. But if I'm totally honest, I've never fully committed. I've never just bitten the bullet and done the steps. And there's always just been this invisible barrier for me, this feeling of maybe it's too rigid. It's not for me. Maybe I can just take what I want and leave the rest. But something's just been slowly shifting in my mind. And after years of building Sisters in Sobriety and interviewing neuroscientists, psychologists, addiction experts, and tons of just real people living this, I've realized something that it's almost impossible to ignore, which is the steps work. And they may not be perfect or magical, but consistently, they really change people. And I reached this point where I thought, okay, I talk about recovery every week. I hold space for these conversations. I believe in this work. Why am I sort of standing at the edge of it? So today, I'm stepping in, and I couldn't imagine doing it with anyone more aligned than with my friend, Arlina Allen. She is a recovery coach. She's the host of the One Day at a Time podcast and the author of the 12 Steps for Skeptics, which is basically written for people like me who are drawn to the steps but have hesitations. So wherever you are in your journey, whether the steps have been your foundation or whether you've also felt that invisible barrier, I hope this episode meets you right where you are. So let's get into the steps.
So what we're going to be doing is a little series here. Sonia and I are going to work steps together right out of the book, The 12-Step Guide for Skeptics. Little pitch for the book, but this is about my experience and how my sponsor took me through the steps and how she guided me through all of the obstacles that came up for me because I was kind of a skeptic. The first one, was like, oh my gosh, I keep hearing about this God thing. And I was like, if that's what this is, I'm not going to be able to do it. And she's like, oh no, don't worry about it. There's a way around it. And I just trusted her and I was desperate. And this was 31 years ago. So there was nothing else. Like I didn't have money for rehab. I wasn't even aware of rehab back then. So,
Options were limited.
Options were limited. I didn't have any money. So, and the step work starts on page 209. It's actually just like 8 pages of the back of the book of the actual step work she gave me.
Yeah.
So, step 1 is, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Important to note that it's over alcohol, not everything, that our lives have become unmanageable. And so, step 1 is, reading the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. There's 2 books. So it's the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, and it's the book Alcoholics Anonymous, commonly known as the Big Book. It's the blue book. So there's some readings and then some exercises. So what was your impetus for wanting to try it?
Yeah, I feel like I have sort of danced around AA for a long time. And, I'll like hit up a meeting a few times a year. I love the wisdom. But I've sort of been sticking to the take what works and leave the rest.
Yeah.
And I never worked the steps and I just couldn't commit. And I think there was well, it's not for me. These people aren't for me. Like, it's too much of a commitment. I don't want to go to meetings all the time. And so I always found an excuse not to do it. And like my sobriety was doing fine, right? Is doing fine.
You've been sober 8-9 years now?
Yeah, like 8.5, almost 9. But I started the podcast, right? And like 2.5 years ago. And we have talked to like top neuroscientists, we've talked to psychologists, we've talked to people with lived experience, and it keeps coming back up that the 12 steps work. And so I thought, there's only so long I can stay away from these steps. And I want to just go through it. And I noticed I was getting a little jealous when people were saying when they work the steps. So I was like, I'm going to work the steps. I can work the steps. And then you actually, you were sort of the one that like I saw the light when you said you can separate the program from the meetings. And so I'm still sort of like on the fence about going to meetings all the time. But I think I will start looking for a group that fits me. But I wanted to work the steps.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, like in the book, I sort of give this example. At first blush, my feeling is, people can read the steps and then be like, "Oh, I don't get it," and toss it out. And when I read Eckhart Tolle's book, I think it was A New Earth, where he tells the story of the beggar, that man on the street and the beggar. So the guy, I'll just tell the story real quick, but a guy's walking down the street and there's a beggar and he's like, can you spare some change? And he's like, well, I don't have anything to give you, but what is in that box that you're sitting on? And he's like, oh, it's just a box I've been sitting on. He's like, have you ever looked inside? And the guy's like, no. And he opens it up and there's like this treasure in it. And so it's like the lesson that Eckhart Tolle gives, or Toll, I never know how to say his name right.
Yeah, I never know either.
Toll, what I think, whatever. He's like, I'm like the stranger. I have nothing to give you, but everything is inside you, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that's interesting because I translate that story to he looked at the box and he thought that he knew what it meant and he disregarded it. But it took someone else to say, hey, look inside. And so that's what I'm saying about the 12 steps. It's like at
Wow.
first blush, you might assume that you know what it means, but you don't know what it means because you've never been through the experience. And that's what the 12 steps are. It's an
Ah,
experience. And you just have to look inside. So I know a lot of people kind of see God, powerlessness, and some other things, and they like, oh, this isn't for
yeah,
me. But I'm
yeah,
like, it's not that it doesn't mean what you think it means. It's something else. And let me just break it down why. And so that was kind of my whole thing with the book was like, the program is the steps and the fellowship is a part of it. They work like soap and water. They kind of work better together.
hmm,
You know what I mean? But the meetings, hopefully people can give you context and perspective to like all these ideas. So I feel like everybody needs a translator, but and I don't think that you can work the steps by yourself. Like you need somebody
yeah,
else who's been through it to translate some things.
yeah. And that I think was another barrier for me.
Oh,
Was like,
finding like a
yeah.
sponsor.
And I felt too like I had gone so many years that even when I would go to meetings, I thought, I don't know how to even ask for a sponsor because I've been sober for however many years.
Yeah,
Like it just felt like an awkward
yeah.
conversation because I think people are used to getting a sponsor when they first get sober. And so I thought, well, I don't even
Interesting.
know where I fit here.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sort of like a common thing. It's like you typically look for a sponsor who has more time than you. But what
Yes.
do you do when you've been sober a long time and there's not a lot of people around who have more time than you? Like that's weird. Like do you,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that's
That's
a there's
exactly it.
there's some weird nuanced things to it. So well I'm excited to do this. So we thought we would just sort of yay, we'll go through this together. And I'm not one of those people that it's like, you've been sober a long time. So when you're first getting sober, you're like on rocky ground, like you're solid.
Mm-hmm.
You're solid. And when you
Solid.
first get a sponsor, normally what a sponsor would say is like, well, the recommendation is 90 meetings in 90 days.
Yeah.
That's to form some good habits, to build your support network, to keep going over like this information that's going to help. It's like nobody knows what this is, but it's really rewiring of your brain. It's
Yeah.
creating new habits. And a lot of people are really resistant to that. But anyway, that's what they'll tell you 90 meetings in 90 days and call me every day. And we're not going to do any of that.
Okay.
Because
We're
you're
doing a modified approach.
probably the diehards are going to give me a hard time about it, but that's okay.
Yeah. That's
There's a
fine.
there's no one way to do it. So anyway, so reading step one in the 12 and 12, what was that experience like for you? Were you surprised?
I will say I enjoyed doing step one more than I thought I would. I thought step one was just like the throwaway step, but it's not. There's more to step one than powerless against alcohol. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, what I got out of it that really hit me was I think that that when people associate AA with like the deepest of like rock bottoms, right? Like when you go to AA on the first step, you have lost everything, right? And I really liked in the 12 steps and 12 traditions where they talked about raising the bottom. And
Mm,
so you are sparing yourself those last 10 to 15 years of literal hell, right? And
yeah.
that was like, that resonates with me because I could see where it was going, but I never did get there, right? I was really lucky where I had, I would say like pretty medium bottom, like a
Well, let's clarify that a little bit. So you were healthy. Was that fair?
healthy-ish. Yeah, no, like,
Healthy-ish.
yeah, not diagnosed with any chronic condition or even like acute conditions.
Okay, so healthy-ish, financially stable.
Stable, marriage was stable,
No big
relationships,
drama. You never got a DUI.
no.
Yeah, so you were, yeah. They commonly refer to that as like silk sheet bottom.
Yeah.
But how did you feel emotionally? How did you feel about yourself? Were you
I wanted to
depressed?
die. I
Yeah,
wanted to
so
die. Yeah. So I had a bottom. It just didn't look like it from the outside, which made it hard to admit and also made the idea of going to AA. I remember at the time being like, well, what am I going to say? Like, my marriage is good. I have a house. I had at that time, like, two houses, like, go on vacation. And so, my career was going well. And so I think that it's weirdly a barrier to entry almost, it feels like. But you're right.
100%.
But the emotional bottom was low, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I,
listen, if you want to die, that is a pretty bad
it
sign.
doesn't get much worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in a similar situation. I had no DUIs, but I was further down the scale than you. But at the end of the day, like I wanted to die. Like I was
Yeah.
contemplating. I was so full of self-loathing that I was like, I
So
don't think
full of it.
right? Like that is so painful. I was in so much emotional pain that I was considering,
Yeah.
ending it all.
But what
So,
another thing that hit me too with the 12 steps, 12 traditions was somebody plants that idea, right, in your head that alcohol could be a problem. And once that idea is planted, you can never forget it. And so luckily for me, my brother was, I would say this was like a double-edged sword where my brother was a pretty like low bottom alcoholic, like DUIs, lost custody of his kids. And he was in AA and he was like he's like a fervent kind of AA devotee. And so once that idea though was planted in my head, I sort of couldn't unsee that I might have a problem with alcohol. And so even though, it took another few years for me to do anything about it, and I really love that idea of sort of like spreading, not like the gospel, but just sort of spreading the idea, and planting little seeds everywhere,
yeah.
that when at the right time will kind of sprout.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like everything happens when it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Um, but I see a lot of people crashing and burning and having a lot of negative consequences. And so it'd be nice
Yeah.
if we could raise the bottom.
Yeah, if we could raise the bottom and say,
Yeah.
like, this is okay. Even when we became like recovery coaches, essentially, like, that there's like the last sort of that chronic like alcoholism that like people rarely sort of rebound from. And like, we don't have to get there. Right.
No, we don't.
And I don't know where I would be if I had kept drinking another 5 years, right? And so I
Yeah.
feel like if I had raised the bottom, if we had raised the bottom, I could have quit when I was like in my late 20s, early 30s. Instead, I was like 38 when I quit. But yeah, I had a pretty reasonable problem by the time I was in my late 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why we talk about it, right? So we can be like, hey, you don't have to crash and burn and lose everything and go to
Yeah.
jail and hurt yourself or somebody else to decide that I need help. I need to quit. And then, maybe trying this process to, I feel like the process of the 12 step is largely a disillusionment process. It's like, you know what? This thing that you love so much, not that great.
Well, how do you reconcile though? And I think this is sometimes like, so reading it like was amazing, right? But how do you reconcile just the sort of factual, I am powerless, my life has become unmanageable with a higher bottom? Like, how do you reconcile that?
Well, it's powerless over alcohol. That's a pretty, I want to make that important distinction because I think that's like something that people reject a lot is they're like, I'm not powerless. Like you were not
Yeah.
powerless over your whole life. Like you were very successful, right? So I think people like dismiss 12 steps because they're like, yeah, this doesn't fit for me. I'm not powerless. But it's
Mm-hmm.
the idea of my drinking is related, and that's what the step one exercise is, and we'll go over what your experience with that is. But that's what the step one exercise does, is it
Mm-hmm.
clarifies like what is the definition of powerlessness? What is the
Yeah.
definition of unmanageability? And where can I find examples of those in my life? And what I like about doing this exercise with other people is like you can come up with some of your examples and I'll be like, oh yeah, here are some of my examples. And then you can be like, oh yeah, I did that
Yeah.
too. And
Yeah.
pretty soon like it's like your list doubles. Right.
Yeah.
So it becomes, so it's a clarifying exercise of like, yeah, this really is a problem. And this is specifically, I love specifics. It's like, this is
Me too.
specifically how exactly this is a problem.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you read the 12 and 12. I love that book. What did you so Bill's story in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, commonly referred to as the Big Book, his story is pretty interesting because he was a Wall Street guy. He was an entrepreneur.
Yeah, Bill's story I had actually heard a few times before, and I think that my mind had sort of just like distilled it to like old white guy has nothing to do with me story.
You're
And
like, I
then
do not relate.
yeah, and so I had sort of been like kind of like towing that line for like a while, but that his story is relatable, and yet yes,
Yeah.
he is an older white guy, and but it is still, but the two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
He was a very like fairly privileged human being in that sense, but also like super relatable. His story is relatable.
Yes, what I think is so interesting about the fellowship in general is that our circumstances are different, but the feelings are typically all the same. Like we all know
Yeah.
what it feels like to like drink too much and be like, why did I
Yeah.
do that? And then wake up the next morning and feel ashamed and embarrassed and have to hear about what you did from other people because some of us black out,
Yeah.
you know, and just the like feeling baffled of like, why can't I control this? Like everybody
Yeah.
else seems to be fine. Like, what's my problem? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
So those are the types of feelings like everybody with this issue can kind of relate to.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, and I don't know how you feel about this. Maybe we can talk about when we finish all the steps that, is there an argument that AA maybe needs to be like modernized in some way? But yeah, I surprisingly found the story more relatable than any other time I had listened to it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So the approach that I was introduced to early on was the approach of how. How stands for honest, open-minded, and willing.
Hmm.
And I want to fancy myself to be like, if you ask anybody, if I ask you, do you consider yourself to be open-minded? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say yes. I think a lot of people fancy
Yeah.
themselves open minded.
Yeah, we want to think that we're open-minded,
Yeah.
but then it comes down to, well, are we?
Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah.
Are we really?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like this confirmation bias. We sort of have to set aside what we think we know so that we can get new
Yeah.
information and have a different experience.
Yeah. I think being open minded to like almost more historical things is different. I think we're all used to being open minded to like new things.
Yeah.
But being open minded to something old is like almost harder.
Yeah, that's a really good point I never thought of. Yeah, that's a really good
Yeah,
one.
like I'm open minded. Like if one of my nieces wants to identify with a bunch of different labels and be in a thruple or something, I can I can get down with that, right? Like I'm
Oh,
like
sure,
I can
whatever.
journal through that. But this this old white guy who's like he was a war hero, right? Too, Bill.
Oh
Was he?
gosh, now I don't remember. I think so.
Mm. But it's like him. I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. He and his wife, like, they went on that road and started looking at all these different businesses they were thinking about investing in, and he played the stock market, so he was a finance guy,
Yeah.
and so I was like, wow, that's a lot of adventure. But I just felt it was like to listen to his story about how he kept failing, like
Yeah.
he kept blowing it. Like he talks
Blowing
about
it.
the terminology is funny because he was like, "Oh, I had a knack for getting tight at just the right time." Like that's tight. What does that mean? So right when he had like a good opportunity, he would get loaded and blow it.
Yep. That's funny. Yeah,
And
we,
I was
we
like,
don't we don't use the term getting tight anymore.
"Yeah, we don't talk about John Barleycorn." I was like, "John Barleycorn? Who's that? Did he write a book? What's
Yeah.
happening?"
Who is John?
Who's John? Yeah, so the terminology is kind of funny. They did actually republish a new edition of the big book, but I haven't read it yet. Okay, so Bill's story, it's interesting. Okay, so trying to be like, how can I? Yeah, so one of the premises of the 12 or the sort of the program is to look for the similarities, not the differences. And when I hear similarities, it's like, oh, I think feelings. Like, what are the feelings I
Yeah.
can relate to? What are the experiences I can relate to? So that's just something to kind of keep in mind.
That's actually really interesting is focusing on the similarities, not the differences.
Yeah,
And
because we all want to
yeah.
think, oh, I'm not like that.
Yeah.
That's not me. But yeah, I remember, I think I don't know, stop me if I've told you this story before, but I went to go speak at a rehab, and this was in my tech sales days. So I'm driving a BMW, I'm coming in with a Louis Vuitton, I'm in a nice dress, and I walk in, and these ladies are missing teeth and have neck
Yep.
tattoos and three different color hair and clothing. And I'm like, they are not going to relate to me at all.
Hmm.
But by the middle of my share, when I'm talking about how much I hate myself and the self-loathing and, childhood abuse,
Hmm.
everyone's like locked in. They are
Yeah, I
locked
same
in.
thing when I go to prisons to teach. And so it's the same thing. It's like you think that we're not gonna have anything in common. And then we do this usually to start, we'll do like the ACE score. And so the adverse childhood
Oh, the ACEs score, yeah.
experiences. Yeah. And so yeah, we'll do the ACEs score and they'll just sort of like and we'll put our scores up on this like whiteboard. And it's always just like, like they'll look at me just being like, yeah, it's like, yeah, we're more similar, right?
Yeah,
Than we are different. And so,
yeah,
and those experiences too, especially will tie you to somebody more than like a Louis Vuitton bag, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Nobody cares about the bag.
they probably liked your bag though.
Yeah, it was a nice bag. Okay, so the other part of the homework was step one, the promises. Oh, typo in the book. Just caught that. Bummer.
Ah,
Step one,
it's a
promise to Alcoholics
little
Anonymous.
late.
Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna update it. Too bad. There'll be little mistakes in here. And then so crossing the river of denial. So let's just get into the actual step homework. So write down the dictionary definitions of powerless and unmanageable. Do you have that at hand?
I sure do. Yeah, so I have powerlessness as without ability, influence, devoid of strength or resources.
Awesome. And unmanageability?
I have as difficult or impossible to control.
Hey now, who can't relate to
Hey,
that?
now I know. I was actually surprised. I was like, that's the definition of unmanageable. Like,
Crazy, right?
yeah. Difficult to control. But I mean, yeah, there's no better way to explain my drinking than that.
Yeah. Like once I started drinking, I never knew how much I was going to drink. I would say, I'm
Yeah.
just going to have a glass tonight. I'm only have one or two drinks, and 10 drinks in, I was like, what happened?
Yeah, that's why I loved the crossing the river of denial. I related so much to that idea. I would literally every morning say, "Oh, I'm not going to drink tonight. I'm not going to drink on the way home tonight." So I'd be on my way to work and I'd say, "I'm not going to drink tonight." And it seemed like so reasonable, right? Like for the first couple of hours of the day, it seemed reasonable. And then by lunch, it was like, I'm gonna have to stop on the way home at the liquor store. Right. And it was like, but I'll just have a drink. I'll just have a drink when I get home. Just, loosen up once I get home. And then it would be the same exact thing. I would end up drinking so much more than I ever intended to. It just was, and it literally, what's crazy is that this is the unmanageable and powerless part. Every day for over a decade went on like that.
Oh my God.
Every
Yeah.
day I would wake up and say, I'm not going to drink today. And then I would drink that night. And it's like, what is crazier than that?
Yeah. Yeah. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah. But like when
Yeah.
you look at those definitions, it's like, yeah, this isn't about my career or my marriage or my like house or no, it's like literally you can't keep a simple promise like to yourself.
Yeah.
Seemingly
Seems like,
simple.
yes. Yeah. Seemingly simple. Yeah. Well, simple and easy are two different things,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy when you get home and you're tired and your brain is already trained. The dopamine, right, is reinforcing activities that bring pleasure. So you walk in, you're tired, you're like, I'm just gonna have one. And then you get
Yeah.
that a sigh of relief. And then, but all bets are off after that because once you ingest the alcohol, then there's no, I had no off switch.
Yeah. I
So,
had no off switch. I didn't, yeah. I knew pretty quickly into like identifying having a problem that moderating wouldn't work. I didn't even try that many times to moderate.
yeah, actually, moderation is way harder than
For
just
me, like
abstinence.
so
Yeah,
much harder. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you really got that out of crossing the river of denial from the literature.
Yeah, I loved it. What else? What does she say that like I just like is it a she?
I don't
Yeah.
remember. Probably not.
Um yeah, yeah, it says when she enjoyed drinking, she couldn't
Oh,
control it. And when she
oh
controlled it, she couldn't enjoy it. And I was like,
man,
boom.
mic drop. Yeah,
Yes, that is the best. That is so true. It was like, I do remember, like, oh, like I'm going to have to do something functional in a couple of hours. So I can't have that many drinks. And I would be like, this sucks.
right.
This sucks. Or
Did
being
not
somewhere
enjoy it.
where like the amount of alcohol was just limited, right?
Yeah,
Like on a plane where it's like, on like a 1, 2 hour flight. I'm like, well, what do you mean we're in descent? I can't get another, you know what I mean? Like it's just miserable when I had to control it in any way.
yeah, yeah. And then when you were enjoying it,
Totally out of control.
out of control. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a good one. I forgot that that's where that came from.
Oh, it's so good.
Me, this is why I like going over the literature, even though I've been over it a bazillion times. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So write down as the second part of the exercise is write down as many situations as you can recall of where you demonstrated that you were powerless over alcohol. So we kind of mentioned some.
So because I've been sober for like a while, I treated this question was more like, how were you powerless over alcohol? And this has actually been another issue I've had, like essentially with AA when I go to meetings, is the like rehashing of like the minutia of like what I like call like the drunk porn, right? Which is like I don't like some days it's fun sometimes, right? To be like, oh, like this one time, but I don't love, and it's not because it's like, well, you have some work to do around that if you're uncomfortable. It's not that. I just don't like love rehashing the incidents. I don't think they're super helpful for me. And so I find sometimes like I'll go to AA and they'll have a speaker and like it's like going into like the very details of like, the first 7 times they got drunk and then like the last 42 times they got drunk. Yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like, and I know we've tossed around a couple of stories here and there, but it's
Yeah.
not really the bulk of it. How do you feel about like rehashing specific drinking incidents?
So what's interesting is if you read the literature says that we share in a general way. What happened, like what it was like, what happened, and what we're like now. And so when somebody goes into, we call it a drunk-a-log, there's a couple of things happening there. So one, the meeting doesn't have healthy boundaries.
Hmm.
Okay. The second thing that's happening is this person might be new And when somebody is new, we give them a little bit of grace to public speaking is hard
Yeah.
to begin with, right? And so they're going to do it imperfectly. So when I'm in the presence of someone who goes into a drunkalogue,
Yes.
this is my opportunity to hold safe space for them. So I'm in service. And it says in the literature that nothing ensures sobriety more than intense work with an alcoholic. What is more intense than being witness and holding space for somebody who needs to get that off their chest?
Okay.
Right. So if I find, but then it's kind of up to the person who asked them to share to be like, hey, like some groups will say no long drunkalogs. Like I attended, like
Ah,
my
okay. Okay. Okay.
podcast, the One Day at a Time podcast, was named after a meeting that I went to that started at 6 a.m. Like, and it was a room full of like 100 people. It was a big meeting. And when you show up at 6 a.m., you're serious about your
Yeah. Yeah.
recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they choose speakers who are good speakers. And these are people who do not, and they even say in the preamble, we don't go into long drunkalogs. So there's some boundaries around that. So the person choosing should know to educate the person. It's like, you're only going to share for 15 minutes. We don't do long drunkalogs. So we try to focus on the solution more. Like, what was your experience of it? So the person, like in some places they call that the secretary, in some places they call that the chairperson. But ultimately, the person who is asking someone to speak at the meeting
That's
to share their
okay.
story should be offering some guidelines.
Maybe this also, and like a few different people, I think, including you, have said it to me that you really have to find the meeting that speaks to you. And
Yeah,
so I do think that maybe I've just had some meetings that are just not like for
very
me.
healthy.
Like I've sat through like, I think twice, like very lengthy, like prostitution stories, and it's like, I totally get it. Like I would have done that for Balavaka too, had I
Yeah.
needed to.
Those, I call those service meetings. I am in service to that person and I still get credit for being of service,
For
even though I don't get anything out of what they said.
But these are like, and so, and every time I've heard a drunkalog, it's been from somebody who's been sober for like 20, 30 years. And so then you have to
So
also
there's
wonder, like,
sobriety and
yeah.
there's recovery.
Ah, okay. Okay, tell me
So
more about that.
yeah, so you can be sober and be batshit crazy. I've seen people with long-term sobriety that are batshit crazy.
Shit
They are not
crazy.
recovered. They are still sick. They are just sick in a different way. And this is
So,
not a judgment. This is just what happens.
so
Like
you can work these steps and not be recovered.
you can work the steps and get a great benefit out of it and be healthy and be sort of what they call on the beam for a little while. But so I always talk about the default mode network. This is your, in
Yes.
neurology terms, neuroscience terms, this is your brain's operating system. This is your default mode of operation. So as you grow up, if you have childhood experiences that are traumatic, it shapes the way your brain is actually developed.
Yeah.
It shapes
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
actual wiring of your brain. So your brain is wired a certain way. So what the steps do, any kind of health practice, what this will do will, it's like exercise, right? Everybody gets that. If you worked out every day for a year, you'd be in great shape. But you stop working out, your body will go back to factory settings. So
Yeah.
that's what mental health is like. You can do all the journaling, the service, the self-reflection, the own accountability, the humility, all the stuff about recovery work. If you stop doing those things, you will go back to factory setting. Maybe you don't drink, but you are still batshit crazy. Your
Yeah.
relationships are in
Yep.
turmoil. You have a lot of drama in your life. You had to fight a lot of financial drama. I mean, it shows up in other ways. Yeah, health issues. I've seen plenty. I remember my mother-in-law one time she said, my husband had this friend. We'll just call him Steve. And Steve was probably 300 pounds, and she hadn't seen him in a long time. They were high school friends. She's like, what is going on with his recovery? Like, why? He just substituted alcohol for food
Yeah.
or food for alcohol. You know what I mean?
Yep.
she's like, what is going on with his recovery? So he was sober, but he was still mentally ill. He just substituted for something else. So,
Yeah.
yes. So you can
Yeah.
be sober. Like, I don't drink alcohol or smoke pot anymore, but I'm a workaholic. So I will
Yeah.
occasionally make myself crazy and work really hard, burn out. Like I go through my little crazy cycles too. I'm still sober, but
Yeah.
occasionally I go batshit crazy.
I always think to refer to that as I am staying sober, but I am not emotionally sober. I will say, like, when I found out my ex was cheating, I was not emotionally sober that day. I
Fair.
did not feel emotionally sober. I wanted
Yeah.
to drink and I didn't. So
Yeah.
I stayed physically sober, but the thoughts I had were not of an emotionally sober.
So would you say that not emotionally sober meant that you were depressed, you were ruminating, negative
Yes. Yep.
rumination?
So, yeah, not emotionally sober to me is like doing the like mental spiraling that used to get me to drink in the first place.
It's
Like
perfect.
when I can't relax without like substances, I'm not emotionally sober. I may get through it. I may get through that 20-minute like craving now sober. But when I'm having those times where it's like I can't calm myself down, like I can't like self regulate, that to me, I guess, would be the best way to describe when I'm not emotionally sober.
So what do you do in those times? Like you haven't picked up a drink, so how do
I haven't
you?
picked up a drink. I mean, I would say the unhealthiest thing I do is probably like Netflix and like pizza type thing.
Valid.
Yeah. And I mean like a lot
That's
of
that's so
Netflix and a lot of pizza. Like I'm not talking like, oh, like I'm gonna watch an episode and have a slice of pizza. I mean like I'm gonna get like in bed at 7:30 p.m. and
yeah,
watch Netflix.
till midnight.
Yeah. And then like at like midnight pop some more popcorn kind of thing. I think that's like,
Yeah. But
but
it's
I
still better. It's
it's
still better
still
than
better. I
drinking. Yeah.
actually like have a lot of like empathy or grace like for myself like around that. If that is the worst thing I do, if the worst thing I do is skip a workout, Jesus
I
fucking
know,
Christ.
seriously.
That is not, I mean, dude, like no, that's fine. Like that's fine.
Doing so much better.
Doing so much better than before.
Yeah. I still, till this day, when I was newly sober, they said get a bunch of phone numbers and when you feel bad, call somebody. And I was like, what? I get to talk about myself? These people will listen to my bullshit? Are you kidding me? So I would call people and I still do that
Yeah.
today.
Yep.
I still do that today. If I feel bad, I will call a friend and like I call it processing. I just need to process. I can't really self-reflect at the moment. I need to talk it out. That's how I
Yeah, that I
process
would say
out
is one
loud.
of the healthier things I do.
Yeah. I
Is
don't
I've
always do it,
learned
but yeah.
I don't always do it, but it was one of the healthier
Yeah.
ones.
That's a healthy coping skill.
Yeah,
Fair.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so powerless over alcohol. Right, what about examples of your behavior? What was unmanageable due to alcohol? I think of this as like being hungover. Like I would be
yeah,
on my way to work and I'd have to open the car door at the stoplight and
yeah,
vomit
yeah.
in traffic.
I
That
mean,
was,
the hangovers were like just terrifying, and I had them towards the end. I had them every day. I looked at this question weirdly again. I did it like a how, like how were my behaviors unmanageable? And like for me, I kind of like turned it into more of a values thing. So I wasn't like
oh,
living in alignment with my values. That was a big thing for me to learn because I don't really think I had any values when I was drinking. I don't remember any.
so you were just kind of doing what you wanted to do.
Yeah. And so did it matter to me that I wasn't at peak of performance? No, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, did it matter that I was like, poisoning myself? Like something that now seems totally unbelievable. Like I don't even like really eat fast food ever, right? And yet I was like pouring like bottles of wine down my throat every night. So I feel like I didn't have any values. Like health wasn't necessarily a value.
Mm.
Yeah, treating people, I didn't treat people, I don't think, with a ton of respect, other than like my marriage was intact. And I think I used that as sort of a symbol of like, I'm fine because my marriage is fine. But I didn't have any friends that I was really close to that weren't just like drinking buddies. I didn't have that. It's because if I look now at what my values are, like health and relationships, and like, I didn't have those.
Yeah, well, maybe they were, because here's the funny thing. It's like people who feel like they're bad parents are actually good parents because bad
Because
parents
they
don't feel
feel
bad
bad.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't
Right.
think about that.
Yeah. So I would argue that you actually did have good values, but you were not behaving in alignment with those
Yes.
values.
I would say that I had these sort of like lurking values
Yeah.
beneath.
Ideals.
Yeah, that like I knew something wasn't right. And
Hmm.
whatever they were, it took, getting sober to like uncover them. But I
Yeah.
certainly wasn't living in alignment with them. I wasn't living authentically I didn't really even know who I was. Like, but again, like it was like lurking. Like I had this feeling like, I think I want to be like really crafty. Like I think I want to make wreaths. I think I want, and like I just couldn't get there at all. Right. So it would be like
Yeah.
on the days where I was, I'm not going to drink today. I'm going to make a wreath. And I would like, I would never do it. Right. I have so many fucking wreaths right now because since I got sober, I made a wreath like every week after I got
Girl,
sober.
you are talking to the hobby queen over here. You ever heard the
It's,
term hobby graveyard?
oh, I have hobby graveyards. Yes, I have. I have so many. I have a cricket machine.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I haven't
So
used
funny.
it in a long time.
You spend like $300 on this thing and you use it
Yes,
twice.
yes, it's like $300, and I haven't used it. And then I decided like last week, I'm like, maybe I haven't used it because it's old. So I started looking up a new cricket machine.
That is hilarious. But
But
it's funny
things,
when you get sober, it's like your personality begins to emerge. Like who you are begins
yes.
to emerge.
And people will say, and I think it's like such good advice. It's like, what did you love to do when you were younger?
Yeah.
And I at first when people would say that when I wasn't sober, I'd be like, fuck off. You know what I mean? Like whatever. I mean, I didn't like to drink. That seems kind of lame. I like to drink now.
Yeah.
But I loved to read. And one thing when I was drinking is I could not get through a book, or I would start a book and then I would wake up the next morning, like I would start it in the evening and be like, what did I read? Like I
Oh
couldn't
my God.
remember it.
Yeah.
And now like I'm in like two book clubs, and like it's really funny. I have book club tomorrow and my boyfriend got me a sweatshirt that says what happens in book club stays in book club. And like
That is
I put the
hilarious.
sweatshirt on and I'm like, this is what's happened to me.
Yeah.
Like
Gosh, I am such a book nerd. Yeah, but I'm not going to take you down that rabbit hole either. But yeah, I love books.
but
But it's
that
so
is
funny.
more, yeah, authentically who I am is like I'm more of a like what happens in book club than like a what happens in Vegas kind of girl now.
I don't know. You have some crazy stories.
Drunkalogs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Drunk yeah.
But maybe actually, you know what? Point out a good, maybe that's, I think that part of my drunkalogs feel like a different person. Like I'm talking about a different
Yeah.
person. And so maybe that is sometimes why it feels uncomfortable for me.
Well, they do say that, um, if you have judgment against somebody, it's a part of yourself that you have denied,
Yes.
right? Like if you spot it, you got it, right? If you're pointing the finger, you have three
Yes.
fingers pointing back at you. And
Oh, so
and I remember
good.
somebody at a meeting that was like, "Oh, what is it about me that you don't like about yourself?" Like, what?
Shut up.
Yeah, these two gals got into it, and it was like, "Oh, what is it about me that you don't like about yourself?"
I
And this is
love
like the
that
thing.
so
It's like
much.
I don't like people that are condescending, but I have been condescending. I
Mhm.
have been condescended
Exactly.
to, and I hate it. And so, but I have that part in me. but I want to deny it and pretend like it doesn't exist. Like I hate that part. And it's so interesting because recovery is about recovering your whole self, the good parts and the bad parts. So when I can have compassion for myself for when I have been condescending, it's typically because I'm in fear about something. And as a cover up, I act condescending, but I hate that about myself. So I deny it. But so it's so interesting, like the whole process of recovering is about holding a little bit of grace and self-compassion for all those character traits that I don't love. I had a sponsor who used to tell me, "Can you love your unlovable parts?" And that was the gauntlet. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
"Can I?" Like, that's a really
So
interesting question.
maybe there is more work for me to do around the drunkalogs. Like maybe I do need to kind of accept that person because there is this disconnect. Maybe there is more work for me to do. Maybe I don't need to like go around like spouting my drunkalogs, but maybe I do need to embrace it a little bit more.
Well, that's the sort of, we'll get to the fourth step because that's when you get to sort of get into the nitty gritty about, where your resentments are
Hmm.
and how you like get into specific causes, how you were affected in it, and then what your part is. Because once we start recognizing our part, the temptation is to go into self-loathing and depression and self-flagellation. But if you are in the presence of somebody that's like, hey, you know what, I did that too. And here's and this is why I
Hmm.
did it. It's like a lot of time we behave badly because we're afraid. We're afraid of revealing who we really are to somebody else, right? People lie because they
Yeah.
don't feel safe enough to tell the truth because there's some negative repercussion.
Yeah.
And so, but it's like, oh, that's fear. And so if we can address the fear, it just seems like a way more compassionate approach. And it really does de-escalate. It
Yeah.
de-escalates how hard we are on ourselves.
Yeah. That's good to know. Okay. Maybe
Yeah.
also my homework before we do the second step will be to find like a women's meeting where I feel comfortable, or at
Yeah,
least
for
test a
sure.
couple out.
Yeah, I would say a women's meeting, and if it could be a step study meeting where you are actually reading the literature, because what's really good, like if you were brand new, I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, we need to read the book together, right? Where you read a paragraph and you talk about it, I read a paragraph, I share what it means to me.
Oh,
And
okay.
so when I was brand new, that's what my sponsor did with me is we read steps together. But she was also like, she was a popular sponsor, so she was like, I recommend that you go to some step study meetings so that you can hear what other people think about, like how do they translate it and apply it to their own life? Like what does it mean?
Okay.
So you get a whole bunch of ideas.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And so,
Okay.
and just, my rule of thumb was if I got to hug a bunch of people, that was a bonus. If someone said
Yeah.
one thing that touched my heart, that was enough. That was enough for the day.
Okay.
And I was being of service because I was listening to others. I literally showed up.
I can get down with that. I can say
Yeah.
that. I can say like I'm being of service just by being here.
Yeah, you really are.
My presence is your gift.
Exactly. Well, I feel like this is a really good discussion of
Yes.
step one.
Can't wait for step two.
Yeah, so when you're ready for step two is literally on the next page, 210.
Yep.
So reading chapter two, there is a solution. Chapter three, more about alcoholism. And chapter four, we agnostics, which I loved.
I love that. Okay. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
We
because I was very
agnostics.
confused about this higher power thing. This is very clarifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't wait. I'm excited. And I'll let you know
I'm
how my
excited for
meeting
you.
goes.
Yay. Thanks for letting me be of service.
Thank you for being of service. And thank you all for listening to Sisters in Sobriety. And we will see you next week. This was Sisters in Sobriety.
Thank you for listening and being with us today.
If you want to learn more about sobriety and meet your community, find us at sistersinsobriety.substack.com.
Are you a sister in sobriety? Then reach out on social media. We'd love to hear from you.
If you're feeling generous, leave us 5 stars and a review and follow us wherever you listen.
You'll never miss an episode. Until next time.